trying to measure pH of food can lead to an expensive mistake. I'm going to show you the three main types of specialized electrodes for food, which ones to choose, and more importantly, which cheap gadgets to avoid that would completely waste your time and money. Can you use the standard laboratory pH meter? That's a good question. I have scoured research literature and noticed that people tend to report what pH meter they have been using to analyze their food samples, but what they forget to say is what electrode they used, and this is the most critical part, which I will go over. So you can use pretty much any standard pH meter, like this one for example. But of course, you cannot use the standard electrode that comes with it to measure pH of food, because you would not get accurate measurements and you would damage the electrode. This is because a standard electrode has a porous junction that allows the reference electrolyte to slowly seep out and make electrical contact with the sample. Food samples are of course full of proteins and fats. These can clog the porous junction. A clogged junction would lead to slow and unstable readings, and eventually the electrode would become unusable. Do not use standard electrode to measure pH of food samples. There are special electrodes for this, like spear tip electrodes, for example, shown here on the right. They are also called puncture electrodes. They are designed for semi-solid samples like food, cheese, meat, or gels. This one, for example, has a protective plastic cover around the glass shaft. Now, this electrode is sealed, it is non-refillable, and what is special about this electrode is its reference system is solid polymer separated from the measuring solution using this open junction design. And this means the system would not get clogged up by fat and proteins. So these robust, needle-shaped pH electrodes are specifically designed for measuring pH in cheese, meat, sausage and fruit by simply puncturing them. Now, glass electrodes are still associated with risk. When you measure pH of food, glass can break. So the same company makes solid-state electrodes. There is no glass there. So these are ideally suited for food and beverage industry. And the beauty of this one is it actually is autoclavable, so you can sterilize it by autoclaving. And as you look around for the best solution, you will come across many cheap handheld pH meters that are said to be designed for measuring pH of food or wine. Do not fall for that. These are actually extremely susceptible to the problems of clogging and damage. They have a simple porous ceramic junction which, like a sponge, soaks up and traps proteins and fats, clogging almost instantly. You might also have seen pH meters for soil in the gardening centers that look like this, and you might wonder, well, that has a simple solid metal probe, which I can easily clean between different samples. Again, that is really not a solution for you. That probe is not a pH electrode. It is a single metal probe that acts as a battery. It measures electrical conductivity, not the concentration of proton ions. When you stick it into soil or any other moist sample, the interaction between the metal of the probe and the salt ions in the moist soil would create voltage, and that's what that soil probe measures, the voltage. And that voltage is influenced by the salt content and the moisture of the soil, which can only be loosely correlated with pH under perfect conditions, but it's not a direct measurement of pH. A dry, salty soil might read as very acidic, while a wet, low-salt soil might read as alkaline, regardless of the actual pH. Okay, so in conclusion, if you need to measure pH in food samples, the best option for you would be to use the standard pH meter and buy a so-called open junction specialized electrode for food samples. Good luck!